Hare Krishna, dear devotees. My name is Gordon Ryan. Please accept my humble obeisances. Trying to get my things fixed so I look pleasant. I have done this video several times for you, but I've never put it online. The whole deal with this video is that I would like to put a new page together for the devotees called Gaudiya Gotra, because I would like this page to work as a source of information for devotees, a platform for learning and studying about Gaudiya heritage, and also as a platform for nice, spiritual, easygoing refreshment. Because as this day and age we use computer technology for everything, practically speaking, we end up working tons and tons in front of screens. And I do know devotees who sometimes, after working like a full day's job on material things, and they feel burnt out by it, but they still have their laptop open. They just mess around on the internet. They use Facebook and everything, just to get some refreshment, some like some food for the soul. So I like to do something for them as well. And of course, devotees could be using this platform to learn about things. And listen, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I'm a devotee. I'm 47 years old, by the way. Let me introduce myself. I'm 47. Due to my uncle's amazing personality and devotional qualities, I came into the fold of Krishna consciousness, practicing Krishna consciousness when I was 1.5 years old. He became a devotee in 1976 when I was born. He first traveled to India in 1978. We ended up starting to live together in my great-grandmom's place because that's how family things worked out. He was evicted from his house for being a devotee by the communist government. I was, dropped off at my great-grandmother's place because, I was I was a 1.5-year-old child and my parents divorced, so they didn't want me to send to nursery. They just handed me over to great-grandmom. So we ended up living together, and he was, telling me all about Krishna consciousness, all super fired up. He went to Vrindavan and Mathura, took bath in the Ganga in the Yamuna. He was like super amazed by the whole experience and everything. And his magnetic personality, his exemplary devotional life, and everything he was to us, it's sort of like caught on with me. Nobody else in the family is really involved with the devotees. Of course, his son is Raghunath. He's a wonderful gentleman. But apart from us two, the rest of the family, they're all very sympathetic with Krishna consciousness, but they're not like super like hardcore about it. They do their service and everything that's there, but it's on a minimal platform. So as I said, I'm not like a learned devotee. I'm 47. I've been around for 45 years. Yes, I've heard all the stories. I've read all Prabhupada's books and everything. Yeah, that's all there. But I'm not in a position to reinvent the wheel for you. I'm going to put a new angle for you out there because my first wife was an archaeologist and anthropologist, and she sort of like gave me this outlook of how to look at things, because when she was doing her thesis, one of the theses she did for anthropology was samskaras from Gopabhata Goswami's Satriya Sardipika. Of course, I helped her with that as well. So I learned how Western professionals and Western academics look at our practices and our heritage. And it's an amazing thing because you don't need the Western thing to validate our things, because our culture is so wonderful. We're just interesting to see how, from their perspective, how they look at things, and we actually learn from that. It's like what Mahatma Gandhi said to the Ayurvedic doctors. You guys go by the scriptures, which is fine, but you should be practicing humility towards Ayurveda as well, like Western medicine does, who does constant research and who actually line everything up to previously earned knowledge and previously known principles. So you don't need to override Ayurvedic principles. You just have to start, involving and putting new things into Ayurveda as new things come up, by the practice of understanding how the new thing works, doing your research. And on the basis of Ayurvedic knowledge and the principles of Ayurveda, you can actually start using these new things as well in Ayurveda. So basically, this is how Western academics work, that they always line up something to like a previously known and scientifically proven thing. So we don't need the validation of the Western world, but nonetheless, how they see our things is really amazing. It's like, we have in our memory that picture of Jagadandas Babaji Maharaj sitting down and chanting chanting on his beads, which is like an iconic picture, the only picture, by the way, that we have on Jagadandas Babaji Maharaj. But not many people know that picture was actually taken in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. Because Jagannath Babaji was duped into going into Calcutta. He didn't want to leave Mayapur. That gentleman who was inviting him kept pushing him and kept begging him, please come. And basically it was made to look like that Jagannath Babaji is going to come there and do some teaching. There's going to be some Gaudiya Milan, some devotees gathering together, and then maybe it's going to be a nice opportunity to actually teach and speak about Krishna. But that guy ended up just, calling his friends over and parading Babaji Maharaj. Like, okay, look at me, how well I am with the Babajis of Mayapur. And now I got this old guy here, and how much of a blessing when I get that he's going to eat our cooking. So as the older days used to work, like practically like British way of how things were working during the times of Sherlock Holmes, Babaji Maharaj sent a note to Bhaktivinoda Thakur by carriage, please save me, Thakur. You have to get me out of here. I don't want to be here. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur straight away went and picked up Jagannath Babaji from the house of that Bengali gentleman and drove him home. I don't know if at that time Bhaktivinoda Thakur was staying in Bhakti Bhavan, but I think it was. I forget. So then they went back to Bhakti Bhavan. Jagannath Babaji spent the night there, and next morning traveled back to Mayapur. But in the meantime, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a camera. He had it wasn't a camera, it was a photography machine, like this old school. Because one of his friends, or I would say acquaintances, was the king of Tripura. And that king was really into photography. Many people say the first selfie that was taken by anybody is the king of Tripura, who took a picture of himself and his wife by prepping the camera and then sitting right in front of it and getting it done. That was the Maharaj that had Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as his court astrologer, as his court historian, as his children's English, Bengali, and mathematics teacher. He was the one who was worshipping Radha Krishna. He's an amazing king. He was an amazing character, and he gave a photographic machine to Bhaktivinoda Thakur as a sign of respect, as a sign of love, as a show of love and friendship. And I don't know if it was actually taken, if the picture was actually taken by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or maybe one of his servants were taught how to use the machine by the king himself, and that's how the picture was taken. But the picture of Jagannath Babaji was actually taken in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house. It's just so amazing. So these things we don't pay much attention to because it seems to be like a side point, The main thing in our Gaudiya heritage and in our line of philosophy is that yes, Jagannath Babaji is taken a picture of, and it's such a great blessing to see such a wonderful Vaishnava. It's a blessing, for eternity. But these sidal points, these sidal affairs that are there, that makes things a bit more, I would say exciting, but that yet again it could be like a materialistic idea of why does a wonderful Vaishnava, Krishna conscious story has to have like an exciting part to it, but nonetheless, this is the things I would like to add to you. So I'm going to put up some information on deities, some information on our sacred places, and of course our sayings of the acharyas, and all that. Okay, so then basically this is the whole idea, and also to continue with my introduction. I grew up in Mayapur Gurukul. I spent 10 years there, the best 10 years of my life. And the way we learned everything in the Mayapur Gurukul was amazing, because we are not only learning things academically, but actually we got to practice those things. And I think definitely has changed my outlook on devotional practices, being able to practice all those things, being able to practice deity worship, being able to take part of deity installations, for Prabhupada's centennial year. We had so many. So all those amazing things that really hit home with us Gurukul students is all those little inner details, those finer details, and I like to shed some light on those as well. And also, I like to take the opportunity to do some research on the internet and maybe do some. I like to post pictures of deities, and maybe I would like to post pictures that are not so well known. You have to do tons of research on them, but there are tons of pages where they have amazing pictures. Like there is a page on Facebook that actually run by the devotees, the wonderful pujaris who are worshipping Haridev at Govardhan. And sometimes you see amazing Abhishek pictures and everything. And that page is in Hindi, so if people don't cruise around Hindi Facebook, not many devotees come across these pictures. But, I had the good fortune of being able to identify things like this. So then I would like to please also see those pictures, because Haridev was actually ordered by Vajranabha, was ordered by the great grandson of Lord Krishna. So that again is amazing story there, right? Because Lord Krishna, after he passed away, Vajranabha was actually appointed to be the king of Mathura by Parikshit Maharaj, and he started up on actually establishing villages in certain areas in Rajamandal, so that if people move in there, they will be able to look after those holy places, the groves of Vrindavan, different kundas, because after the passing of Krishna, most of the Yadu dynasty died out, so not many people stayed alive. And then Vajranabha was actually establishing places of worship and sacred places of pilgrimage and sacred villages to have like a self-upkeeping system where you have local devotees who look after the local things like temples and sacred places. Yeah, so these are amazing things. And if you look at it, most of the devotees do not know much about it. There are some connoisseurs who actually go into the finer details of Tirtha Yatra, and they know all the sacred places of Vrindavan and Mayapur and Jagannath Pur and everything. But most devotees, actually, they don't. And of course, we have stalwart devotees like Dinabandhu Prabhu. And by the way, this page will have regularly, posts from Dinabandhu Prabhu, posts from Madhavananda Prabhu, posts from Jai Vijay Prabhu, because they put up so much Krishna conscious material, it's amazing. Yeah, so basically this is going to be the thing. And by the way, maybe it's a insensitive information to bring up, but I'm gonna have posts regularly from Sridhar Maharaj, from Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, from Keshav Maharaj, because those devotees were great friends of Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada. And I think one of the biggest mistakes ISKCON has ever made was to cut themselves off from non-ISKCON sadhus. And I'm not saying this as a sympathetic of all sorts of politics and everything. My initiating spiritual master, Shivaram Swami, who was barred from visiting Vrindavan for several years for keeping too intense of a relationship with Narayana Maharaj. So I'm not into that stuff. I'm just telling you that there is so much nectar in those teachings. It's amazing. And mind you, I only said these few devotees because I don't want to make this into a page of, you don't know who's initiated into what sort of lineage in our sampradaya, who's going to start giving you instruction. I'm going to keep to myself to what Srila Prabhupada said. Srila Prabhupada said he considers Sridhar Maharaj to be his Shiksha Guru. When Sridhar Maharaj was given sannyas, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, we are going to call you Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar, the protector of devotion. Because when Jiva Goswami was working on the Sandarbhas, he called Sridhar Swami. Sridhar Swami was the great commentator of Srimad Bhagavatam. By the way, Srila Prabhupada greatly benefited from Sridhar Maharaj's commentaries. Jiva Goswami said that Sridhar Swami was actually the protector of Bhakti, Bhakti Rakshak. That's how he called him. So when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said that Sridhar Maharaj should be getting the same entitlement, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar, I mean, that says something of Sridhar Maharaj's nature. And of course, Keshav Maharaj, I would also like to add, because Keshav Maharaj was a lifelong friend of Srila Prabhupada. Keshav Maharaj was Srila Prabhupada's sannyas guru. And when the Gaudiya politics erupted and broke out, many brahmacharis at that time, Bhakti Pragya Maharaj was also, Keshav Maharaj was also brahmachari. When they left, they just left, with a couple of dhotis in their bag and a kartal and a mridanga, and they just walked out. And when they actually, in 1940, when they actually established Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, Srila Prabhupada was one of the persons who was signing on the establishment papers, on the mission statement. And at that time, Srila Prabhupada said they would like to put together a spiritual society that was headed up by Sridhar Maharaj. Sridhar Maharaj didn't go for it. He said, no, I don't feel spiritually ready for this. So then later on, of course, Bhakti Pragya and Keshav Maharaj got sannyas from Sridhar Maharaj, and Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti stayed under him. But that was there. Then Sridhar Maharaj later on started up, his own Chaitanya Mat, and then of course Puri Maharaj is also there. Gopinath Gaudiya Mat, he's an amazing person. And as a Gurukul student, as a Gurukul person, I had the good fortune of attending a few of his Vyasa Pujas in Mayapur, because as a courtesy, they always called on ISKCON devotees from different departments. And of course, they always called on Gurukul also to attend. And I was lucky enough to be sent there by Gurukul Swami several times, or attended with him, or just sent there to pay our respects and pay our homage to Puri Maharaj. So, Puri Maharaj, I had the good fortune of actually touching his beads. And imagine Tulsi beads that he chanted 64 rounds on those beads for over 70 years. I mean, it's like, that's how you understand Tadiya Tattva. You touch beads like that, it's just like, wow. It's just so amazing, so crazy. It's like when you go into areas and you see, like Srila Prabhupada's room, you see his personal things, or like when you go to Saruganja and you see the actual bed Srila Bhakti Thakur slept in, and it's like, wow, it's externally it's an object, but internally it's just so amazing. You can actually get blessing from a bed's post and stuff like that, which is like dead wood, right? So yes, so some devotees will definitely be there. Of course, maybe you will see a few posts from Bhaktivedanta Madhav Maharaj as well, because he was a friend of Srila Prabhupada. He was a very hard man. He was a no joking around person. But he was the one who actually said, when some godbrothers of Srila Prabhupada started saying that, Bhaktivedanta Swami is, taking our Guru Maharaj's name and everything, and he shouldn't be called Srila Prabhupada. And Madhav Maharaj was actually a very stern gentleman. He said, one thing you must remember, everybody here is eating Bhaktivedanta Swami's prasad. and by the way, I also like to put some stuff up like this, like, okay, the ontological position of Prabhupada, because you have so many devotees in our lineage, but not many of them are called Srila Prabhupada. Rupa Goswami, yes, he's called Srila Prabhupada, because he started organizing the teachings of bhakti in a system, and he was actually organizing direct teachings from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he received into Bhakti Sindhu, in Parishamrita, and all these wonderful things. But then Jiva Goswami, his nephew, also had the position, because if you see, our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition is based on the Satsandarbhas of Jiva Goswami. That's it. All the major philosophical ideas that Gaudiya Vaishnavism follows are presented by Jiva Goswami. So yet again, he's also called Srila Prabhupada, because he's also organizing a sampradaya for us. And by the way, if you see, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is never called Srila Prabhupada. Because why? Because he wasn't actually working on a society that was actually registered and everything that was something like an official thing. He was trying to establish Namahata. He was trying to establish devotional centers in every village in Bengal. And he's always been called Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur because, he wasn't working on a grand society like the Gaudiya Gotra, or grand society like ISKCON. And of course, then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was also called Prabhupada because he organized the first structural representation of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He established Gaudiya Mat. And then Srila Prabhupada came along, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, and he did something that has never been done before, or that will never be done again, I would say. He actually spread Krishna consciousness to every single continent in the world. And when we say that Lord Chaitanya's idea was to have devotees chanting in every town and village, Srila Prabhupada did something so amazingly empowered and powerful in this regard that it's just impossible to replicate. It's impossible. So basically, yes, he's also called Srila Prabhupada because he did something yet again, to the Sampradaya, to the being of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. That is just so incredible. And usually when we talk about the position of Prabhupada, where masters gather at his feet, it's usually somebody like that. Okay, so I would like to write up on things like that because we devotees, we don't think about these things, but if you have an anthropologist in your family, you have to. It's a must. So basically, these are the main lines I would go down on. And by the way, with all respect and everything, you will not see posts from Narayan Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj on Gaudiya Gotra. And I'm not trying to politicize the issue or not trying to, be judgmental because Narayan Maharaj is a devotee far greater than I could ever be. But how much hurt was done on both sides, to both parties, both to the devotees of Narayan Maharaj, both the devotees of ISKCON. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to have a platform that really restarts, rekindles these hurtful fires. Plus also the way Narayan Maharaj talks about Ras Leela and the intimate dealings of Radha Krishna, it's over the head of 99.9% of Vaishnavas. And yes, it's so nice to hear because it's an amazing story, but to us it just stays as a story because we have zilch idea of what's just been told by a great Vaishnav like him. So I think, because you see in our lineage, this wasn't really done before him. So basically, I would just like to follow the rules of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, because they never spoke on intimate dealing. Sometimes they did, but sometimes just in a very concise manner, just in a couple of, like when there's a purport by Srila Prabhupada that says sometimes the Guru comes in line and comes in connection to Balaram, and sometimes, he comes in the line of Srimati Radharani. And on that sentence, you could write up volumes of philosophy of having a Rasacharya who actually sees through the highest mood between Radha and Krishna, and then he's going to be coming in the line of Srimati Radharani, but then everybody else comes in the line of Balaram. So it's just one sentence written down by Srila Prabhupada, but you could write volumes, and that's why when Srila Prabhupada said everything is in my books, yes, everything is in his books. Yeah, so we don't really have a need, but it's nice to get instructions and teachings that show us the same things that we already have from Srila Prabhupada's books from different angle, because as every devotee is different and everybody else's intimate relationship with the Lord, it's always personal and one in a kind. Yes, you can also see one in a kind realizations. This particular realization is penned by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, by Narottam Das Thakur, by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So basically, yes, we'll rely on some quotes and everything from Vaishnavacharyas, but not because not everything is available in Srila Prabhupada's books. So you don't need external validation, as I said again. But still, sometimes you have different aspects brought forth a bit more because the devotees focus on different things because of their different personalities. Okay? So basically, if I want to do like a little summary of what has been said, yes, I would like to build up this new page, Gaudiya Gotra. You will see tons of information on our acharyas, on our sacred sites of pilgrimage, on our deities, and it will have a little twist, anthropological twist, where more details and more side points are going to be brought in light, either from historical point of view or anthropological point of view of what effect those things had like that. And you'll see tons of quotes from wonderful Vaishnavas, because if we say that Gaudiya Vaishnavism relies on three forms of evidence, meaning Sadhu, Guru and Shastra, if you consider that all three is connected to the Vaishnavas, because Sadhus, they are Vaishnavas, Guru, Vaishnavas, and Shastra is either written by Vaishnavas or received into this world through Vaishnavas from the Lord directly. So basically our greatest treasure is definitely the Vaishnavas of our heritage. So basically this is going to be the new page all about our Vaishnava, our Gaudiya Vaishnava heritage. And today's Garuda Panchami, 21st of August 2023, Budapest. Hare Krishna, take care, Haribol.